Welcome, Westworld fans. It's taken 2 years, but we finally arrived at season 4. But keep in mind, this season 4 is beginning 7 years after season 3. So we're talking 7 years after the big revolution. The Rehoboam machine is gone. What is society like now, and where are our favorite characters? So let's start with the opening scene. We run right into it with the man in black. He looks like he's on a mission. He's been buying up land, barren land, that doesn't seem to be worth anything. And now he's buying a turbine-powered dam that's actually under the ownership of, it appears to be, the Mexican cartel. Now, the cartel doesn't seem to fancy selling him the place. And in true Man in Black fashion, he basically tells them, you can sell it to me today for a good return, or you can sell it to me tomorrow for nothing. So, the cartel doesn't want to be bossed around. They think they're in control. So we get to see a glimpse of, the Man in Black, what type of power he may have now. We know this is a host. From what we saw at the end of last season, the real Man in Black, William, is actually dead now. And this is some type of host that has some type of power that's fueled by flies. Now, I don't know if these flies are mechanical or if they're just some type of supernatural element, but basically when you see them, you end up getting controlled. So they control one cartel member, he slaughters everyone else, he takes over ownership of this property, and he hints that there's something that was hidden in there by someone that is no longer with us. Is that Dolores? Is that his daughter that he killed by accident in season 3? We don't know yet, but we just know that William is on a mission and looks like he's looking for revenge. How do we know he's looking for revenge? That goes into our very next scene when we're talking about what happened with Dolores. Now, she's not Dolores now. She is now going by Christina. And apparently she has no memories of all the havoc that she caused before in season 3 as a machine revolutionary. She's living a mundane life. She's a writer for a virtual reality game, and she's not even a writer of the main characters. She writes the background characters, which is very interesting. She's struggling doing that. She's living an unfulfilled life. You hear a lot of quotes in there that give you a lot of insight on where her mentality might be now. She has a roommate. Her roommate tells her that you didn't forget this thing, you're repressed, when she mentions forgetting an assignment. Her roommate also talks about how she needs to get out of the house. She seems like Dolores is a homebody now. She doesn't like to get out. And when she does get out and she goes on a date, she basically kind of reveals that she's depressed. She mentions that, she sees the world as broken, but the world sees her as broken as well. Now, her date basically tells her that, well, you can take some pills for that. I think he called them tabs, for any type of depression that you're dealing with, it'll work out. And even in the more condescending tone, he basically tells her, maybe you haven't met the right man yet. So we see, like, on all levels that Dolores is really not happy. Now, the only hint that there's something going on that's deeper is the fact that she has a stalker, somebody that's been blowing up her phone. She doesn't know who this person is. We find out that his name is Peter, and he's basically claiming that what she's doing is dictating his life. Very interesting comments, right? Because on the surface, we're being presented that Dolores is basically just a writer for a mundane game, and that's it. But apparently, maybe what she's doing is having a bigger effect on the reality of the world. So that brings us to the first big question of this reality that we think that Dolores is living in. Is this really reality, or is this another stimulation? And that she's basically lying dormant. That's where I'm leaning towards as of right now. That's the only thing that kind of makes sense. And also, with the Rehoboam machine being gone, maybe somehow Dolores has taken its place and she's still influencing what's going on in the real world without her being aware of it. That might be the possibility, but it's so much that we have left in the season. Who knows if I'm right or if I'm completely off the mark? But that's my first kind of prediction of what might be going on with her. I think she's in the simulation, and I think maybe her roommate might be the key, because if she's in the simulation, then her roommate is maybe standing in place to keep her in this sleeping, this unaware state, or maybe the roommate isn't a host, and maybe it's a real person, but it's still actually playing that same role. And if the roommate is playing that role, then of course the question is, who's controlling the roommate? Who is the roommate working for? So that's where we're at with Dolores. So she's not causing any havoc yet. But Maeve and Caleb, different situation. Kind of goes back to what we saw at the Man in Black. He's ready for war, and it looked like the first targets he has are Maeve and Caleb. Now, Caleb and Maeve, they went in polar opposite directions since the revolution 7 years ago. Maeve has chosen to be in isolation. She's trying to stay away from everyone. She still has her powers. We see that early on where she's able to knock out the electricity grid for her entire area. Just she's running back the memories of everything that she went through, still has trauma from losing her daughter. But as she's just basically chilling out, minding her business, there's an assassination squad that comes up there and tries to kill her. Now, May still has the moves. She disables all of them. She decapitates one of them, and she's able to go into his memories and find out that William is back and looking for her. So immediately she goes to Caleb. Now, Caleb's existence is completely different. He's trying to live a quote unquote normal life. But the problem is, Caleb is not a normal guy. Even his history that we saw beforehand as a mercenary, he's still a soldier at heart. So he has a daughter and he has a wife. He's basically training his daughter like a mini soldier, almost like how Sarah Connor in Terminator did her son. His wife hates that, and she even has a big argument with him where she says, "You don't fear war, you miss it. This life is too ordinary for you." Now, Caleb is trying to push back against that, and he does tell her that everything he does is to keep you guys safe. He's not content to believe that everything that he did is just going to be forgotten. He feels like a war is coming at any given point. And he was exactly right. His assassination attempt that comes when the agents come for him, it almost happens. If it wasn't for Maeve coming in at the last minute, Caleb would have been out of here. So of course, Maeve makes a big save. They have a rendezvous. Maeve lets him know that the Man in Black is back and he's looking for some type of revenge. They don't know exactly what his complete motives are, but they just know that they have to get out of there and stop him. So Caleb decides that he needs to keep his wife and daughter in isolation away from everything while him and Maeve go on this mission. So now we have a buddy cop situation, complete flip from season 3 where it was Dolores and Caleb. Now it's Caleb and Maeve. I already kind of like Caleb and Maeve better, because they have a focused villain that they're after in the Man in Black. Now, as far as the big questions that we have, we didn't see Bernard, so we're assuming that hopefully he's going to be coming out of his slumber anytime soon. We saw him in that dusty state after sitting in that hotel room for God knows how long. So we don't know what his motivations are yet, or what he saw, or what the information he's gathered in that state that he was in. So we're waiting to see what happens with him. We didn't see Charlotte either. Based on what happened in season 3, we're led to believe that Charlotte is the one pulling the strings behind the Man in Black host that we saw in this episode, but we don't know that for sure. Maybe the Man in Black, this host is a rogue host. We don't know that. Or maybe he's under Charlotte and following Charlotte's direction. So we're still waiting to get some information on that. Here are the main questions I had after this episode. So number one, like I already mentioned, the Man in Black, what's his motivations? Why is he going after Caleb and Maeve after they've been seemingly dormant? What's the purpose of buying this facility? What's hidden in there? And what type of power is he going to be able to get from there that's going to impact the world? So that's my main questions with the Man in Black. With Dolores, now going by Christina, I want to see how far we're going with this crazy Peter storyline. Where's Peter from? Is he a host? Is he a real person? How is his life being controlled by Dolores? Or why does he even think his life is being controlled by Dolores? And whether she's in the simulation or not, or is she in the real world? That's the big question I have for her and her storyline going forward. With Caleb, he's in a way struggling with PTSD. He doesn't fit in the normal world now. Having just like a day-to-day job is not working for him. So I'm interested just to see how things deal or how things go with him and Maeve. You saw there was a split kind of and a philosophical split between him and Dolores last season, even though they were on the same page initially. So my question is, are we going to get something similar with Maeve going on, where they have a philosophical split as things progress? They're on the same page now. They have a focused enemy in William, but if that changes, are they going to be able to be on the same page? That, just storyline wise, I see them having a split probably by the time we get to episode maybe five or six. And then going back to Dolores, she mentioned that she's kind of searching for a happy ending. And that brings us to the kind of the big reveal of this episode. The last shot that we see is of Teddy, who we thought was in robot heaven, apparently with no cares in the world. He's back now. So number one, if this is the same Teddy that we saw, how did he get out of there? Number one. And what was the motivation for getting out of there? Is it just love and wanting Dolores back and paradise not being enough without Dolores? That's kind of like the sappy reality that they may go on. But of course, Westworld is good for throwing you curveballs. So if this is this even really Teddy? Is this some type of host Teddy, a different one, just here to, mess with her emotions and mess her up even more? Or is this the real Teddy that's going to awaken her from whatever kind of slumber she's in so that she can remember everything that happened in season 3? So I feel this was a good starting point. The name of the episode is called The Auguries. So for those who don't know, augury basically means like a sign or an omen of the future. So the question that's still unanswered is, what was the big sign? Is the big sign basically what William is doing, to kind of build for his future revenge? Is it Dolores, is the signs coming from Peter? Is the sign maybe Teddy returning? So I'm not even really clear what the sign is yet that we're supposed to be focused on as far as like the big omen. Was it the attack on Maeve and Caleb? Was that the big sign of another future war that's about to happen? So I don't know what the actual sign is yet. I think that'll become clearer in the next couple episodes. One last thing that kind of stood out to me, we had these big riots and everything when the machine was shut down and everybody was made aware of their future, basically with the machine kind of dictating where they're going to end up at and people rebelling against that. But 7 years later, it feels like people have kind of settled back into, I guess, a mundane existence. It's almost like after something big like that happens, it's like, what's next? What's my next reality? And it seems like nothing much has changed. People are kind of going back into that routine of kind of embracing fantasy. We see that with Dolores, her day job, there's a big market for that kind of the virtual games and the Westworld concept that had people stuck in the beginning in season 1. So it seems like the real world is kind of going back to that, and there's no like utopia or reality that people thought was going to happen after the machine was shut down. So it seems like people are kind of aimless at this point and kind of have their heads in the sand. And that is kind of the perfect setting for maybe a William takeover, if that's what he's trying to do. So let me know what you think of the opening episode. I know a lot of people had mixed reviews about season 3. With this season 4, episode 1, are you liking where things are going? Or are you still kind of shaky and think we need to kind of have that return to the quote unquote Westworld environment that we had in season 1 and season 2? All right, looking forward to hearing from you guys. And we'll be coming back with episode 2 review the following Sunday. And we're pretty much looking to do that every single Sunday, pretty much at 10 p.m. Eastern. After the episode airs, you can check to see these recaps up there. So thanks for your time, guys. Looking forward to hearing your feedback.